Evening all. If Samantha Bee told a joke in a forest and there was no one around to hear it, was it even funny in the first place? Yes, Samantha Bee is number 4 on my list of 10 people who define the progressive left. Well, you join me here in beautiful Devon on the first day of my holiday, and I just want to get a couple of things out of the way before we get on to Samantha Bee. Oh, God, getting on to Samantha Bee. Shudder at the thought. So, a big welcome to all my new subscribers. I've received quite a few of late, and I'm glad you've decided to subscribe. Um, I have an odd channel. I can't really explain it. It's an eclectic mix, much like myself. But do enjoy and do leave comments. And a second big thank you to the Britisher, who has taken a shine to some of what I've done of late, invited me onto his Cyberpass quiz the other night, which was absolutely brilliant fun. I really enjoyed it, and thank you to the Britisher and his friends. But let's face it, I aced that one, didn't I? Okay, so without any further ado, let's get on to Samantha B. Oh, God, no, okay. Right, so Samantha B, an American, or I think she might be Canadian, but she's on American television as a political satirist. But for me, she represents a problem in the way political satire is becoming. She sits alongside on the evening schedules with Jimmy Kimmel, Trevor Noah, John Oliver, Stephen Colbert. But while they have big ratings, flashy shows, they get to do a lot. They get a lot of awards and things. Bee's main claim to fame is just how unpopular she is with large sections of the public. Sargon of Akkad a few months ago did a challenge. He challenged people to watch an entire episode of Full Frontal with Samantha Bee and see if anybody could actually make it to the end. And there's a lot of response videos to this. And in the end, there weren't a lot of people who could make it to the end without hitting themselves on the head, crying out in frustration, or begging for mercy. I've even tried it myself. I didn't do a video of it though, but it was tough going. You see, the problem is with Bee's comedy is that it doesn't come from a place of honesty. Now, this is a thing about satire. I mean, I've dabbled in it myself over the years, but the best satire is one where you can maybe distort some of the facts, you can give it a weird setting, you can do all these things to play around with reality. But as long as at the core there's something the audience can recognize as truth, and I do mean truth. So one of the best examples I can give is Peter Cook's masterful kind of monologue piece of satire where he plays a biased judge. You can see it on YouTube. It's and on a documentary film called The Secret Policeman's Ball, where he plays the part of a judge who is so obviously biased towards one, I think, to the defendant. And he's so biased against the opponent. In this case, the satire was about the British politician Jeremy Thorpe, who allegedly hired, and I have to say allegedly for legal reasons, but we all know what really happened. He allegedly hired a hitman to kill his gay lover, but in the end, a pet dog got killed instead. So that was the whole thing of Cook's satire, was the fact that this establishment judge was choosing the side of the establishment politician over that of a man who'd been targeted for assassination. But what B did in one particular episode of Full Frontal, I think this is perhaps her worst example, was when she tackled Brexit. And she said that one of the reasons, the big reason for the people of Britain voting to leave the European Union was that Britain was 78% white. Now, you know, forget the fact that this is racist. It plays to this horrible idea that people vote in their ethnic blocks. This is all part of the intersectional social justice theory. Very dangerous idea, which I'll probably get onto on one of my future people on this list. But in B's case, she was saying 78. The problem is that 78% of Britain is white. So obviously all those white people voted to leave. Well, that's not backed up by the polling data. But it's something. It's a lie she's happy to peddle. And it makes it worse is that somehow she becomes ignorant of history at this point for convenience sake. So the reason why 78% of people in Britain are white is because A, we're part of Europe. Europe is a little bit higher in latitude. We get less sunlight. It's been a beautiful sunny day down here in Devon, but it's not always like this for most of the year. So it makes us white. That's just biology and history combined. But the thing is that she has played into this left-wing narrative that's becoming quite predominant on the progressive left, that whiteness is some kind of aberration, that it's some kind of weirdness. It makes us think weirdly. It makes us all nasty people, and bigots. Vroom, a white baby is born, and instantly it's a bigot, and it's a terrible, terrible line to pedal. And B is going down. I mean, she's going down a road that makes her hardly different from the idiots on MTV Decoded who push this stuff forwards, instantly constructing straw man arguments as you watch, whilst talking to you like a children's television presenter. Oh, I say, I'm not racist at all. What are you talking about? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. White Man, but yes, you are very racist. This is lies. This is propaganda. It's beyond satire. And this is where B operates. She also tells weirdly specific jokes that might only be funny to about half a dozen people, as I witnessed during her White House correspondence dinner awards, which she hosted, I think last year or the year before, where she tells jokes that only not just people in the press and media would understand, but people who are very specifically in a very tight niche of journalists would understand as well. And she doesn't play to an audience. She seems to play purely to the camera. Her show, Full Frontal, tellingly doesn't have a studio audience, unlike Colbert or Oliver or Noah or Kimmel and his tears. This is it's a kind of weird form of anti-comedy that she does, where and a case in that is when she called one of the Trump women, and I cannot remember. I don't have my notes at the moment, and I don't have an internet connection. I'm just recording this, and then I'll upload it later because I've just moved into this holiday guest house. But the thing is that she called one of them the C word. Now there was no joke in that; it's just abuse. She got hauled on the coals, and she kind of did an apology, and everything's all right, and Full Frontal keeps going. This kind of anti-comedy was tried out in the 1990s on Channel 4 in the UK with something called the Mark Thomas Comedy Product. And always beware of any comedy TV show that puts comedy in the title, because it's probably going to be anything but funny. But anyway, Mark Thomas was trying to do a Michael Moore, so he'd rock up to these evil capitalist corporations and to Tory government departments and try and, I don't know, bluff his way in, confront them about an issue that he wanted to confront. But he never confronted any bigwigs, anybody with any power. He'd end up spending the whole episode harassing security guards, receptionists, people on the counter. He did one episode where he drove around and around a drive-through McDonald's in different vehicles. And all he ended up doing, did he get through to McDonald's head office? No. He ended up just harassing a couple of people on the till. Yeah, that's the level he operated at. And he did a primitive form of doxing as well, where a security guard would say, I'm sorry, you can't get onto this premises without authorization. And then Thomas back in the studio would go, anyway, this security guard, Dave Watson, who works here, lives here. So it was horrible stuff. And B is kind of doing this, sort of going after low-hanging fruit and then lying to go after low-hanging fruit as well. And the worry is that this is going to be the format for political satire in the years to come. It's not going to hinge around jokes. It's going to hinge around getting your blows in as a kind of comedy equivalent of Antifa. And this is a worrying trend that we might all have to endure for a bit longer. So, Samantha Bee represents, she's kind of bulletproof amongst her own people, as she's playing increasingly not to a wide audience, not to try and, with her satire and humor, reach out and try and bring people on the fringes or into the center to more to her worldview by being funny. I mean, she's remarkably. She doesn't have that self-awareness and self-deprecating quality that I think some of the best comedians and satirists have. Um, she's quite an angry woman who just wants to put in punches, a bit like Antifa. Um, so that's basically it for my take on Samantha Bee, and why I think she's um, one of the significant figures in the progressive left at the moment, because she's dragging satire into this very nasty, aggressive, humorless uh, world. So, but let's forget about that for tonight. Um, enjoy. I'm going to enjoy the lovely English countryside. Have a nice ale, and until next time, have a good weekend. Bye.